I have never been anywhere in my life where drugs were more readily available and sold as openly as in that elite private school. And as far as I know, nearly everyone from that school has gone on to college, graduate school, professional careers. When people think of drug dealers, they're not thinking of the kids who went to that school. There are plenty of drug dealers to be found there. White kids living in rural Nebraska don't drive to the hood to get their marijuana or their meth or their cocaine. No, they get it from someone most likely of their own race down the road. Drug dealing and drug use happens in every community of all colors, but those who do time for drug crime are overwhelmingly black and brown. In some states, 80 to 90% of all drug offenders sent to prison have been one race, African American. Now I know there's many people who say, oh well, it's a shame, those staggering racial disparities are a shame, but we've got to get tough on them, those folks in the hood, because that's where the violent offenders are, that's where the drug kingpins are. We've got to get tough with them. But what many people don't realize is that this war on drugs has never been focused primarily on violent offenders or drug kingpins. Federal funding has flowed to those state and local law enforcement agencies that boost the sheer numbers of drug arrests. It's been a numbers game. Law enforcement agencies have been rewarded in cash by the millions for the sheer numbers of people swept into the system for drug offenses through federal grant programs like the Edward Burke Memorial Grant Program and others. And federal drug forfeiture laws allow state and local law enforcement agencies to keep for their own use up to 80% of the cash, cars, homes seized from suspected drug offenders. You don't have to be convicted of a drug offense, just suspected. And the police can take your cash, seize your car, home. These financial incentives that are built into the war on drugs give law enforcement a direct monetary interest, not in ending drug abuse or drug addiction, but in the longevity of the war itself. And the results are predictable. 80 to 90% of all drug offenders swept into our system are, arrested for primarily non-violent, relatively minor drug offenses. 4 out of 5 drug arrests are for simple possession, only 1 out of 5 for sales. Most people in state prisons for drug offenses have no history of violence or significant felony activity. And in the 1990s, the period of the greatest escalation of the drug war, nearly 80% of the increase in drug arrests were for marijuana possession, a drug less harmful than alcohol or tobacco, as was shown, and at least, if not more prevalent, in middle-class white communities and on college campuses than it is. But by waging this drug war almost exclusively in the hood, we've managed to create this vast new racial undercaste in an astonishingly short period of time. Now, why did we go and do this? Why did we suddenly declare a war on drugs? Most people seem to imagine that this war was declared in response to the emergence of crack cocaine in inner city communities and the related violence. And for a long time, I believed that too. But it's not true. President Ronald Reagan declared the current drug war in 1982 at a time when drug crime was actually on the decline, not on the rise. It was before, not after, crack first hit the streets and ravaged inner city communities and became a media sensation. President Richard Nixon was the first to coin the term a war on drugs, but it was President Ronald Reagan who turned that rhetorical war into a literal one. And at the time he declared his drug war, drug crime was actually on the decline, not on the rise, and less than 3% of the American population even identified drugs as the nation's most pressing concern. So why declare a war? A literal war on drugs at a time when drug crime is on the decline and the American population isn't even much concerned? Well, from the outset, the war on drugs had relatively little to do with genuine concern about drug addiction or drug